Good evening. Welcome to From the Mic Stand. My name is Phil Poyser. I'm one of Macclesfield's local poets from the Macclesfield Creative Writing Group. I'm pleased to have the opportunity tonight to read you some poems of mine. The first two are pretty topical. I come from an Anglo-French household, so it's been quite a week with the football. So here's something seasonal. Teardrops pitter-patter. I think of Sepp Blatter. The World Cup has surely been hijacked. Fat cats have got fatter to play it in Qatar, though my half-rhyme is lacking impact. The path to the laurels isn't Betfred's or Coral's. It's 11v11 on the pitch. With dilemmas moral, the odd spat and quarrel. Could our team be the best with no hitch? The excitement's intense. The result 4 days hence. Breath held, fingers crossed. Don't count chicks. We'd spared no expense in attack or defence. But 22's not the new 66. Bring it back home must await 26. On a Christmassy note, I'll move straight on to the second poem. It's a little bit saccharine. It's called Santa Banter. It's that time of year again for some jolly Santa banter. Spy reindeer in the night sky pulling sledges at a canter. Upon snow-laden rooftops you may see a rotund figure suck halfway down a chimney, which will likely cause a snigger. His cheeks are puce, soot smuts his beard, his sack's crammed full of toys. His red-nosed reindeer Rudolph coughs and makes a snuffling noise. They really should be home in bed in Lapland's snug igloo, not gallivanting roof to roof when it's less than -2. But kiddies count on Santa for their special Christmas treats, and Santa puts on weight with all the mince pies that he eats. So he gallops round on Christmas Eve, squeezes down each chimney stack, and as long as kids believe in him, each year he will be back. So sweeties, don't be cynical. That kind old man in red just needs to be believed in, to leave toys beside your bed. Not a particularly realistic poem in view of the present climate. This one is more coming down to earth, a more realistic picture. It's called Let Them Heat Coke. For lower income families, the choice is rather stark. A burger on the table, lights off sitting in the dark, or feeding their meter, which is reading gas half empty, whilst wealthy snouts in troughs are wallowing in plenty and sniggering. A cold shower did me no harm at Eton. Time we called them to account and turned the blooming heat on. Take Boris Johnson's Partygate. Just watch him weave and dodge. The OED has altered the spelling to BOJ from bodge. Marie Antoinette once quipped when the poor folk had no bread, qu'il mange de la brioche. King Louis trailed by one short head. Should Carrie, Antoinette perhaps, use a similar line? Would she be more amenable than Johnson to resign? Let them heat coke might be her adaptation of the quip, then watch the party poll take a percentage dip. Whoever thought we'd hear that there are Tory levellers, yet Johnson and his cronies managed to bedevil us. 4 billion squandered on past used by dated, unused masks and scrubs. They would have served us better staying in their private clubs. The cost of living soars. Inflation's like hot air balloons, which upwards rise into the skies, steered by weak-jawed buffoons. They write off waste in mouth bad taste, an ever-vicious spiral. No windfall tax. I'm all right, Jacks. Bad news, it soon goes viral. Cole Porter's song, give him a gong. These days anything goes. Pinocchio would blush and glow as he watched Johnson's nose. This next poem harks back to the pre-pandemic days, and it's called innocent until. How innocent we were in those pre-COVID days. Our lives ticked on untrammelled, blithely unaware of just how easily advancing path would craze, how difficult it would become to merely bear the daily dreariness, the fear which takes its toll. Delights forbidden like the simple act of tidy hair, return to something like normality, a major goal. At last the news of vaccines, fast-tracked hope, first trialled, approved and carrot dangled. They would make us whole, a tousled smirk assured. We bounced and leapt to be beguiled, and wagged our tails at thoughts of Walker's sunshine rays, and scampering down a distant beach, sandcastle piled, whilst eyes and needles glint with desperate hope ablaze. How innocent we were in those pre-COVID days. Now, I do realise we've had two other Prime Ministers since Boris Johnson went, but I've yet to catch up with writing some major poetry about them. A poem that I wrote very recently was after seeing the sky and the moon last week. So it was on Wednesday of last week that I wrote this poem. It's called Moonstruck Again. Did you see the moon tonight, full and round and shedding light? A silver coin, a careless toss, leaves us moonstruck and at a loss, whilst generous orb is unconcerned at what 10 years ambition earned. Footprints linger in moon dust, cling stubbornly to powdery crust, where remnants hang of US flag, bleached by sun, a transient rag. It's 50 years since man walked there, on awesome blue-green earth to stare, and wonder at the universe, our insignificance, our curse, our home a tiny point, a fleck, perspective and reality check. And the previous poem I'd written after the moonshot in 1969 was when Neil Armstrong died, and that was published in one of my pamphlets called Eric Bloodaxe and Other Verse, and I've got 4 pamphlets out, and they are sold for Prostate Cancer UK. I mentioned earlier that my household is half French, half English, and this is called Domestic Sonnet and explains how we got together. Each day we share reminds me of the time when we first met and wished to talk and learn, and in another language show concern for others, you in song and me in rhyme. The lyrics of an Aznavour or Brel would quickly stir our innermost emotions, and we'd swim out on love's and life's wide oceans, or crowd surrounded, swirl in Piaf's spell. Now domesticity sweeps us all along, horizon speck, la nuit bolivienne, humdrum perhaps our vie quotidienne, but in a flash we are returned in song, gone daily grind and supermarket treks, and once again see life through rose-coloured specks. I've lived in Macclesfield for a long time, but I'm originally from Nottinghamshire, so this is a poem about my Nottinghamshire roots, and it was one I wrote in one of our library session, creative writing sessions, where we were asked to write where we were from. I am from the seams of coal for aeons buried deep, from blackened lungs of miners into which the fine dust seep, who daily dropped into earth's bowels, freefall in the cage. I am from the soot ink marks they scrawled across the page. I am from the hosiery mills where menders crouch and peer, producing perfect nylon stockings, intimately sheer, where eyesight and a steady hand decide what you are worth. I am from the piecework host they call the salt of earth. I am from the shift workers on afters, nights and days, my family line all blinking as they step into sun's rays. I am the hopes to which my forebears never could aspire, to escape their life of toil, their ambition better, higher. I embody hopes of which those forebears could not dream, to leave behind their hardship, the coal and hosiery seam. I'm going to do 1 or 2 poems now about how simple things were back in the day. And the first one is called Backtrack, and about how excited we got over a simple journey. We were so excited we didn't sleep a wink. Would morning never come and creep through a curtain's dangling veils so we could leap from out constricting sheets and rush downstairs, pulling on a rumpled shirt and odd sock pairs? Would rains come spoil it all or shine? Our prayers were answered. A timid sun, a patch of blue, and Mam, organised, unfussed, cried, "Use the loo!" Time's hurtling by and I can only find 1 shoe. At last we're ready, frothy little imps, and stare from platform's edge to catch first glimpse of steam trains chuff to head for sand and shrimps. From present day perspective, strange to confess, our day trip out to almost seaside town Skegness held for us the magic of the Orient Express. So whilst paddling at Skegness was not always as easy as you might think, one of our other great pleasures was bonfire night and the fireworks that we could buy in those days at just that particular period. It's called Lighting Up the Night Sky. Oh, how the fireworks brought me joy when I was but a growing boy. For weeks Dad emptied out his pockets. I'd straight away splash out on rockets, penny bangers and Catherine wheels. Well, who needs sweeties after meals when you can buy a Roman candle to light the evening sky postprandial? My favourites were the jumping jacks. I'd buy in dozens, stacks and stacks, a hoard of pyrotechnic treasure, the source of so much fleeting pleasure, tucked more or less out of harm's way in carrier bag. Come the big day, my pulse would race, my heart would pump at my wardrobe ammunition's dump. Too brief, too soon gone in a flash, charred fragments littering bonfire ash. Compared with this, I tell no fibs. The rest of life has been damp squibs. Wonderful time of the year, and still get a kick at bonfire night to see the fireworks. The next poem is called Childhood Photograph, and it's in my book Lifelines, which is one of the 4 that I sell for Prostate Cancer UK. Again, it comes from a workshop. Childhood photograph. The photo is in black and white. It dates from the early 50s. This might be its platinum jubilee year. It shows a young boy on the front lawn of a semi. He peers squinting into the sun and the camera lens. And behind the camera, his mum, a friend, not his dad. His dad won't be home from the pit yet. By the boy's feet, a dog relaxes, tongue lolling in the heat. The dog, a smooth-haired fox terrier, is lean, alert, intelligent. It's the boy who is chubby with puppy fat. He will cry for a week when his dog is run over. He will cry less when his dad dies, or even 10 years after that for his mum. He does not know that very soon he will be me. The next poem is a little bit more cheerful, I hope, and it's a skit or parody of a very well-known poem. It's called Solitude. I wandered lonely in a crowd, whilst posting thoughts, unveiling ills. I walked along and talked out loud. Aren't earphones great? They're really brill. Beside the bank, through shopping malls, whilst still online with website pals. Continuous as the stars that tweet, or presidents at 4 a.m, their every thought quite indiscreet. Oh, how I do so envy them. 10,000 followers at a glance, each logging on at every chance. My Facebook page, where I lay bare the trivia of each passing day is where I live or simply stare or turn to online games and play. These habits steal my days. They filch, so social intercourse is zilch. For often on my couch I lie, nothing much comes on TV. I sometimes ask myself just why I am so crap at being me. But then my heart with pleasure fills until I get my broadband bills. So that's a bit of an update on daffodils. I have 3 other interests apart from writing, and my daughter refers to them as ABC: allotment, bridge and cycling. This next poem is the C one, and it's relevant to the Danes Moss development threat here in Macclesfield. It's called Man and Superman, and it's in this book, Eric Bloodaxe and Other Verse, and the illustration for the cover of that was done by Karen Ross, a local artist. It's called Man and Superman. My disguise is quite authentic, dull, late 70s humanoid. My persona is eccentric. My poems often nod to Freud. But just beneath this outer coat of liberal middle brower, there lurks a crime wave antidote, a super-powered kapower. When devastation's on the cards, when Macclesfield town's attacked, when councils lift the last safeguards and short-sighted plans are backed, I don my underpants and cloak in some quiet deserted spot, and suddenly I'm super bloke. So don't mess with me, best not. Developers' mad plans are dropped, and the council soon recants my alter ego I adopt when I wear my underpants. Clad in lycra, cloak and undies, small-town villains fear my name. I work weekdays, Saturdays, Sundays, no job's too wild nor too tame. I've been known to swoop on bullies, or when litter vandals strike and drop rubbish in our gullies, super bloke's back on his bike. So remember, when a crisis needs resolving at a stroke, I'll perform my next ecdysis and emerges super bloke. B was for bridge. This one is called Bridge in Winter, so quite topical and seasonal. Outside it's wintry showers and colder than our fridge, so we're huddled round the table to play some hands of bridge. North shuffles in his chair and bids, South dreams of milder climes, and East's a beast, but blessed with West. I'm void of better rhymes. South sighs for Longbridge cruisers and attractive package deals, and pleasant company and slams, along with all her meals. North wishes South would concentrate or shuffle off this coil, or they're in double trouble which his afternoon would spoil. And then with this damn COVID bug, we zoomed on BBO to get our fix. No travelling time, come wind or rain or snow. But playing bridge is more than cards, it's social intercourse. In 21, back face to face, and ace to ace, of course. Though some arrive in face masks, are liberal with hand gel, we try hard not to worry. Our aim is staying well. Of course, we're all delighted when our way the cards do swing. We will feel even better when winter's overcalled by spring. I hope there weren't too many bridge references in there that you might not follow. I write an awful lot of allotment poems. I hope that's not going to be translated as a lot of awful poems. Blah Blah Black Sheep, which is this one, refers to Brookfield Lane Allotment Association, and we have an annual show in August, not during the pandemic obviously, but this poem predates that by the previous August. It's called First Prize in the Cute Cumber category. I can't let this pass without comment in rhyme. Fly flags, hang out bunting, let's hear church bells chime. My big day had come, I'd been waiting for years. I'm feeling emotional, almost in tears. For that Saturday was the day of the show. We hopefuls turned up with our produce in tow. 30p for each entry, so serious stuff, and winning first prizes would be really tough. With a single sweet pea or trios of veg, how would we find that competitive edge? The morning passed quickly, selecting our crops. The pick of the bunch, there'd be no room for flops. A monster tomato, 3 beetroot, 3 beans, a white frilly squash, and maybe some greens. 1 pot of marmalade, 1 pot of bramble, 1 rhubarb or ginger, and ginger, a bit of a gamble. And one final entry, last but not least, an arrow-straight cucumber fit for a feast. On the stroke of midday the judging began. Would the afternoon go according to plan? 3 o'clock soon came round. We scurried back in, eager to see who had managed to win. Laid out on the tables, the results were displayed. Had any of my entries made the grade? Yes, here I'd a 3rd prize, there I'd a 2nd. That was lots more success than I'd reckoned. The sponges and scones I sauntered right past, and headed for where the cucurbits amassed. And I swear that this all logic defies. There was my cucumber, sporting first prize. Yippee, I shouted, it was just in my head, showing you've triumphed is very ill bred. It wasn't the longest, it wasn't its size, it wasn't its girth that won it first prize, but somehow it embodied perfection, most rectilinear in the cucumber section. Its skin satin smooth, a beautiful green, a tiny bit shiny, which gave it a sheen. I'm over the moon, I'm chuffed as can be. Maybe next year, best in show might be me. I mentioned earlier that the local artist Karen Ross had illustrated 2 of my books, Eric Bloodaxe and Seconds Out, which I'll try and show you. That's a picture of my dad watching boxing on television and being ministered to by my mum. So Karen has also illustrated for me some Australian fauna poems. I've written quite a lot of them. I've got 2 or 3 here that I'll run through. The first one is called The Wombat, and I always claim that it's a poem that I know by heart, the only one of mine. So I'm going to give that a go, but I'm going to keep it here just in case. Observe the wombat, short and squat. It marks its territory a lot. For markings uses cubes of poo, a very awkward shape to do. And yet the wombat seems serene. It munches anything that's green. Ignores completely you and me. Just goes on marking territory. A couple more of these. One is this one. Oopsie. I hope that's visible all right. It's called the Redback. When entering his garden shed, an Aussie always minds his head. Gloves he'll sport, for once inside, a danger lurks, the redback spider. Beneath the seat on threads she hangs, where venom drips from female fangs. Nudge she'll bite you in the dunny, on that place where shines no sunny. The duck-billed platypus is this one. And diminutive the platypus plies to and fro without a fuss. As long as he enjoys his swim, sports monotremes keep him in trim. With beaver's tail and bill of duck, envenomed spur thrown in for luck, he is supremely unaware that he is composed of parts to spare. And I'm going to finish with a poem back again to the subject of football, but in a seasonal sense. It's called First Footy, Best Wishes for 2023. We'll have a traditional Christmas, roast turkey and heaps of mince pies. Round the tree stacked up other presents, loads of personal hygiene supplies. We'll pass through the dark winter solstice. It'll be difficult to celebrate, though the Christmas tree's heavy with lights, like the world with too much on our plate. On TV comes a king known as Morecambe, with another by name Ernie Wise. On the news, we pick facts from falsehoods and statistics from damned outright lies. We'll have highlights from the two Ronnies. At 3 millions turn on the King's speech. The Queen, Freddie M, dead and gone is, and that champion's now out of reach. There's much at this time is traditional, so grammarians have nipped in the bud a future demand for the conditional to be renamed the Victoria Wood. With the roast we have all the trimmings, pigs in blankets and stuffing and sprouts. We toast with glass over brimming, Happy New Year, which common sense flouts. By the 31st of December, the bird will be curried, baked in a pie, risottoed, the carcass dismembered, as broth, and served up for one final fry. We'll go veggie, drink in moderation. We resolve we'll be radically changed, that nation shall speak peace unto nation, a pledge that may seem quite deranged. Primrose path of good intentions brings us back down to earth with a bump. We fret over inflation and pensions, and Kim Jong-un, an ex-president chump. To the strain of Jules Holland and guest bands, Big Ben's chimes and a firework display, we'll welcome the new year and link hands. We'll promise to mean what we say. In the past came a dark-haired first footer with a coin, some coal, a mince pie. Now on January the 1st, hear me mutter, it's Premiership first footy on Sky. So thank you for listening to that, tuning in, and I hope you've enjoyed some of them. We're going to take a short break now and hope to see you again in about 10 minutes after for an interview. Okay, thank you very much.